Top 10 Tips for Entrepreneurial Success, hosted by Geoff Wilson. He's the president and co-founder and CEO of 352 Media Group and a serial entrepreneur, if you will. Has started several successful companies. Is going to share some of those insights with you today. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Geoff in just a moment. Just want to remind you, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can go ahead and ask them in the questions tab in your dashboard, and we'll be answering those as we go, or holding them to the end if appropriate. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Geoff.
All right, thanks, Peter. This is a little bit of a different type of webinar today. For those of you who have been on our webinar list, you get an invite probably about monthly, and we do a different webinar that's related to web development or digital marketing. But today we decided to do something a little different, and I wanted to share some tips that I've learned along the way that have really helped make our company successful. I've had a very fortunate run here at 352 Media Group. We've grown from being just a tiny little group of guys in a fraternity house room into we're now a 65-person company as of today, and expect to do about $7 million in revenue this year. So it's been an exciting growth time, and I want to share a little bit of that with you. So going ahead and getting started here, I figured I should start by telling you a little bit about myself, just so you know who I am. I grew up with a love for gadgets. Gadgets and video games were a big part of my childhood, and as I got into high school, I turned that into something that could actually be a little more reasonable as to my future, and that became a love for computers. I started actually my first business in high school. I started a computer store in a mall in Sarasota, Florida. There it is, a little computer kiosk, and that was my first entrepreneurial experience. It taught me some really great lessons that I carry through to today. When I got to college, I started what is now 352 Media Group, designing web pages for companies. And this was the first trade show that we ever went to. This was back in, I believe, 1998. There's me on the right. We were exhibiting back, the early days of the internet, our ability to create web pages for clients. And back then it was just a couple of kids, doing it to help pay their way through college. That photo here is from 2001. That was our original staff as we were actually forming the company we have today, 352 Media Group. So you can see we've grown a lot over the last 10 years. This is a photo that we took from our company retreat this past summer, and actually this photo doesn't even include a large part of our staff, because over the past year alone, in 2011, we started 2011 with about 40 employees, and we ended 2011 with about 65. It was a huge growth year for us. We had a lot of success, and this photo was taken back before we added a lot of people throughout 2011 to our team. So it's been a great run, and I've learned a lot along the way. I've also been involved in some other entrepreneurial ventures. I opened up a couple of Ben & Jerry's ice cream shops, so I have some experience on the food service and retail side. And then I also started some online ventures over the years. A company called Play Action Online Kids Camps, which developed online games for kids, such as CampPete.com, which is currently online. And if you have any kids in the age ranges of about 5 through 12, they'd really enjoy it if you showed them that site, I think. It's been a lot of fun. Most recently, I've been helping my wife with a company she started called Social News Desk, which is a social media management tool for newsrooms, those in the journalism industry. So a lot of variety of experience that has led to some of the tips that I'm going to share with you today. So without further ado, let's get into the tips. And if you guys have any questions along the way, as Peter said, feel free to use the chat box to let us know those questions, and I'm happy to take some of them that you may have. All right, my tip number one: when starting, less is always more. I truly believe that if you're starting, regardless of whether you're starting a business or whether you're starting an entrepreneurial type of project within an existing business, that having too much money is a problem. Too much money allows you to spend it without actually feeling it. So many companies make the mistake, they're so well funded that they don't have to critically think through every decision, and they're able to make decisions without feeling life or death associated with that decision. Just look at the dot-coms. This is what happened to them. They had all of this funding, all of this money coming in the late 90s. They didn't, every dollar they spent was not a life or death decision to them, so they spent money on things that frankly weren't necessary and weren't going to help move their business forward. I firmly believe that having too little money at the beginning is a really good problem to have. It's better than the alternative. Having too little money forces you to be creative. It forces you to make better, more creative decisions and get better results. Additionally, having too little money allows you to reserve capital for future expansion down the road. What I find with so many businesses, talking to a lot of startups who come here to 352 Media Group to have us build their websites, talking to companies talking to the people who own those startups, so many of them have made mistakes where whatever they envision their website or their company being in the beginning when they get started, it changes so drastically over the first year. As they actually take their product to market, as they actually take their website to market, they learn that the consumers want something slightly different than what they originally thought, and then they have to make adjustments. If you spend too much money at the beginning, you're not going to have that money saved up to be able to make those adjustments. And it's that tuning of the radio dial, making the adjustments that is really critical to the success of your business. So save money in the beginning, just get a product to market inexpensively, reserve cash so you can make adjustments down the road to your plan. Tip number 2, discover and embrace your why. There is a great business speaker named Simon Sinek. He's written a really good book. I'd recommend everyone read it. Start with why. There's also a lot of videos on YouTube of Simon Sinek. In fact, if you just go into YouTube and you type in his name, Simon Sinek, you'll get a series of videos where he explains a lot of his thinking. And what he speaks of is that people love to follow companies that have a purpose and a belief. In order for your company or your idea to truly become something, it has to be grounded firmly in a why. A why is a belief. A why is what the heart and soul of what you're doing is. It can't just be to have a product or to make something cheaper or better. It needs to be something more from the soul, a passion that comes through in the products and the services that you offer. Simon gives the example of Apple Computer. Apple Computer, as you know, is an amazing company, and their iPod specifically is really what launched their dominance that they have today and the dominance that they've shown over the last 10 years. Compare Apple to Dell. Both Apple and Dell came out with an iPod around the same point in time. They both came out with an MP3 player. Apple came out with their iPod devices. Dell, which was actually at the time even a larger company than Apple, a more established, better named company, came out with their own set of MP3 players. Yet today, when you think about buying an MP3 player, you would never think of buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why? Because they're a computer company. Why would I want to buy an MP3 player from a boring corporate company that makes computers? Well, that's all Apple was too. Apple was just simply a company that made computers, no different than Dell. But Apple has a belief. Apple has a why. Everything Apple does speaks to the greater picture of what they're trying to accomplish. Apple's devices all have an amazing user interface. They believe in making devices that are simple, that are intuitive, and that are magical. When people use the devices, they come away feeling like it was a magical experience. That's what Apple believes in. Dell wasn't able to convey that same belief in their devices, and it wasn't successful for them, as it wasn't for many of Apple's earlier competitors on these devices. Another great example is Harley-Davidson motorcycles. There's few companies that are able to evoke such a belief, such a culture amongst their customers as Harley-Davidson. Harley stands for an open road lifestyle. When you think of Harley-Davidson, you get all of these images in your mind of the people who are fans of Harley-Davidson and the people who are riding around their bikes. And it's because they have such a strong culture associated with their brand. Harley-Davidson has a very, very strong why. If you can incorporate a why into your business, if you can incorporate a why into your idea, and then you can convey that why to your employees and to your customers, it's going to be great. Tip number 3, find a niche. This is really important. At 352 Media Group, we get a lot of entrepreneurs coming through with business ideas who want to build the next Facebook or the next Groupon. And every time I hear a customer come through with one of those ideas, I get nervous for them because it is so hard to take on the world. And unless you're starting with a niche, your chances of succeeding are almost nil. And what people forget is that Facebook and Groupon started off as niche businesses themselves. When Facebook launched, its target audience originally was college students. And originally, it was college students only at Harvard University. It then grew to be college students at other universities, but they only launched campus by campus very slowly because they knew that they could capture one particular campus. That gave them a very specified, defined target market that it would be easy for them to get to and capture. That's a small market. They took a small market strategy and build it going market by market by market by market by market. And then finally, they got all the college students, so they opened up for high school. And then eventually, they opened up for everybody. But they took that growth model and they turned it from a website that was focused on one particular campus to a website that now serves the entire world. Groupon, in a similar method, started in particular cities. Groupon took a city-based method to its expansion. You know, Groupon was not national in the beginning. It started in specific areas where there were enough people interested that could get the deals going, and then it was able to grow from there. You have to start with a niche. Don't come with a business idea where you want to be everything to all people. It's impossible to market to all people. A recent personal success story in this regard is the business that my wife and I started called Social News Desk. It is the social media management tool for television newsrooms and journalists. There are a lot of social media management tools out on the market. Hootsuite, TweetDeck, very popular social media management tools. These are general tools that are available to anyone. And so when we wanted to come out with our own social media management tool, we knew that we could not be just another Hootsuite or TweetDeck, because if we attempted to be just like Hootsuite and TweetDeck and target everyone, we were going to get lost in the fray. So instead, we found a particular niche. We decided to create a social media management tool that was similar in some ways to Hootsuite and TweetDeck, but contained very unique features that really spoke well to a particular niche. In this case, it was journalists. And this tool has a set of features for journalists that those other tools don't have. As a result, she's had a lot of success. That gives her a very defined target market that she is able to market to. She's not trying to market to anyone who might need social media management. Rather, she's trying to market just to journalists. And specifically, she's starting with television stations. So that gets her target market down at only around 700 television stations in the U.S. that have newsrooms. So now she's got a very defined group that she can get to and that she can market to and that she can have success with. Tip number 4, find people who hate your ideas. This is really important. You've got to find people who say, you know, they're not fans of things you say. People are going to be hypercritical. Here's the thing. Your family and your friends who love your ideas, they're doing you a disservice, because they're going to tell you that any idea you come out with is going to be great. Don't listen to them. Listen to people who think that your ideas are bad, because those are the people you're going to learn the most from. Your friends are actually those who are going to poke holes in your business plan or your marketing plan or your new product idea. Find people to poke holes in your ideas. If you are surrounded by enablers, if you are surrounded by people who think all of your ideas are wonderful and are going to tell you how successful you're going to be with your next great idea, you're doing yourself a total disservice. Find other people who will tell you the 100 things that they think are wrong with your idea and the 100 reasons why you're never going to succeed, and listen to them and make adjustments to your business plan to account for the feedback that you're getting from them. That type of critical idea is going to make your plans a lot stronger in the long run. Tip number 5, being small can be a good thing, but look polished. There are advantages to being a small business. A lot of larger companies actually like working with small businesses. In fact, At 352 Media Group, the biggest project that we've been working on this year is a large project for Wells Fargo Bank. When we went and presented to Wells Fargo to try to win the business, we didn't hide the fact that we were a smaller company, obviously a heck of a lot smaller than them, and smaller than a lot of vendors that they are used to work with. But that can be advantageous. Why? Because I personally, as the president of 352 Media Group, was in that meeting, and I knew that I could show them a commitment to their brand, a commitment to their company, and how important the work that we were going to be doing for them was to our company, and they would really respect that. If they were looking at some other vendors for the project, they may have been looking at vendors that were 1,000-person companies, 2,000-person companies, and I'm sure the president of those companies weren't in that meeting, and probably no top executive from those companies were in the meeting. So you can, big companies wish they were small. Big companies like Wells Fargo and all the other Fortune 500 companies, they miss the days when they were small, because those were the days when they were flexible and agile, and they miss those days. They want to get back to those days, and so they don't mind bringing vendors in who can encapsulate that for them and be that way. But you have to look polished. Being small is a disadvantage if you don't look as polished as the big guys. But there's a lot of creative ways that you can make yourself look polished. In fact, when I started 352 Media Group, it was actually started out of a fraternity house on the University of Florida's campus. That was our office. I lived in this fraternity house and had an office there, and we had a 1-800 number run in to my room in the fraternity house. And in an effort to make ourselves look big, I trained all of the guys who lived on my floor in the fraternity house that if I was off at class and this phone ever rang, to please come into my room, answer the phone, and say, hi, thanks for calling, etc. It was actually very successful, because although we were only a couple-person operation, a lot of our clients thought we had 30 different employees, because every time they called, someone else would pick up the phone who they hadn't talked to before. You can do little things like that to make yourself look big, make yourself look polished, make yourself look professional, while still embracing the fact that you are an agile, flexible business. Tip number 6, get into the club where the models hang out. Now, what do I mean by this? This is actually a reference back to the TV show Seinfeld. There was an episode of Seinfeld where George, and who can forget George, decided that he wanted to get into a club where there were a bunch of models. He felt that he deserved to have a pretty model girlfriend, and he decided that his best chance to get into that club was that if he could show that he had dated pretty girls in the past, that he would be more likely to be accepted into the club where the pretty girls are today. He had to get himself into that club. So what he did was he actually took a photo of the girl that Jerry was dating at the time, and he cut this photo out and he put it in his wallet, and as he was going into this club, he just happened to drop the photo in front of one of the models, and she picked it up, and then George said that this was his dead ex-wife, and of course the girl took sympathy on him and noticed how pretty this girl was, and now all of a sudden George was invited in to the club with all of the models. Well, business is very similar. For us, instead of the club being filled with literally beautiful models, the club is filled with big companies who you want to be your clients. And maybe these companies that you see on the screen are not specifically those who you wish to be your clients, but there are other companies that certainly you want to get in with and that you want to have become your clients. So how do you get into that club? You get into that club by having done work for others that are in that club. And for us, the work that we were able to leverage was Microsoft. We got a fortunate break back in 2004. I had some connections into Microsoft. I had a couple of good friends who worked for the company, and they were looking for opportunities to get 352 Media Group to be able to do some work for Microsoft. It's very, very tough to get on Microsoft's vendor lists. And they tried for a couple of years and couldn't find a great opportunity for us until one day they had a project that none of their other vendors could handle. It was something on an extremely tight turnaround, and all of their other vendors basically said that they were crazy. So this was our shot. This was our chance, and we said we would do whatever it took, and we literally worked almost 24 hours a day, had people working late into the night on weekends to produce what was an interactive DVD for them on incredibly tight turnaround. We got the project done. We did it successfully. And now Microsoft has been our #1 client overall for the past 7 years. So getting into that club is any way you can find your way into the club, get there. But more important than just the work that we have won for Microsoft is actually what Microsoft has done for us in allowing us to position ourselves with other companies in that club. The fact that we did work for Microsoft, the fact that we promoted that work on our portfolio, the fact that we showed that work to everyone we could possibly show that work to, allowed us to then be accepted by companies like Wells Fargo and CNN and American Express, who we do a lot of work for today. So find your way into the models. Tip number 7, exude personality and tell your story. People love stories. Stories are a great way to get people to remember you. In fact, the best speech writers are storytellers. If you've ever heard a speech that moved you, that you felt was particularly memorable, it's likely because that there were stories that were woven into that speech. Stories are great, and your story is what makes you unique. Your story is the one thing that other businesses can't take credit for themselves. You could say, oh, our product's better, our marketing's better, and other people can say their products are better and their marketing is better, but your own story is something that's always going to set you apart and make people remember you. So embrace your story. We do this heavily in our company. It's something I really believe in. And if you have had a chance to look at our website, 352media.com, you'll find several videos on it right there, smack in the middle of the homepage, as well as on our company page and other sections of our website that tell the story of 352 Media Group, and they tell stories about the services and the products that we offer to our customers. Stories are great. Find a way to incorporate stories into your website. Find a way to incorporate stories into everything you're doing from a marketing perspective. And also, media likes stories as well. If you do a good enough job of telling your story, you're going to get free press as a result. And free press can be the best type of advertising that you can have. Tip number 8, hire based on attitude, not skill. Fire based on attitude and skill. This is a lesson that we've definitely learned over the years at 352 Media Group. Don't hire just based on skill. Hire based on attitude. It is more important. I firmly, firmly believe that. Attitude truly is everything when it comes to the workplace. I strongly believe that if you can take an individual who has a lot of passion, who has a lot of drive, and a lot of intelligence, you can teach them to do absolutely anything. And I would rather have somebody come in my door who's got a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and a lot of intelligence, and has a real can-do attitude, and I'd rather teach them how to do their job well and have them learn really from the others within our company, rather than hiring someone who walks in the door and has a long resume and years of experience but has maybe lost that attitude, has lost that passion, has lost that drive, or just isn't in general a good fit with our culture. You're going to have a lot more success if you hire based on attitude as opposed to based on skill. Tip number 9, get it to market quickly. And what this means is that when you come up with a business idea of any type, don't spend too long formulating it. Come up with an initial concept and get it out there. Let the market dictate the direction that you take your idea when you start getting feedback from your users. I can tell you a story about a time when I did not follow my own advice, and it cost me dearly. Earlier I mentioned one of the startup projects that I personally did, CampPete.com. Really fun online game for kids. It's this football world where you can create a character and you can walk around this world and you can play. There's a bunch of different games in there. It's both football and cheerleading, so girls like it as well. And you can dress your character up and play a bunch of games and win points and win prizes. It's a lot of fun. I used a lot of our designers and programmers here at 352 Media Group to work on the game, and we built something really awesome. But here's the problem. What we built was too big. It was too grand. It was too over the top. In fact, This is a map of the game world. Look how extensive that game world is. That scene that I showed you just a minute ago was only one little part of this overall game world. The whole entire game world contains something like 50 different scenes that you can go into, along with a whole bunch of games and other activities. It was so extensive that we spent more than a year building it out. And during that time that we were building it out, competitors started coming online. And the economy started to get a lot worse as well. So that when we finally got around to launching it, we had lost some of the impact that the game would have had. Competitors had already taken positions, and the economy had soured. There were too much competition for the attention of the kids who we were trying to market the game to. And while the game has had a ton of people play it, and the game has had some success, it never had the degree of success that I would have liked to have seen the game have, or that I even expected the game to have. I wish we had gotten the game to market earlier. I wish we had built the game much smaller, much simpler, kept the cost down, and pushed it out to market and allow kids to start playing it, see how they interacted with it, see what they liked and didn't like, and then refine the game accordingly. Not only would it have produced a better game in the long run to have users using it early on and giving us their feedback and seeing how they interacted with it, but it also would have saved us a lot of money and a lot of headache. So whatever idea you got, get it out to market. See what people think about it. Let them start using it. Let them start buying it, even if it's not perfect, and then refine it as you go. Tip number 10, culture, culture, culture. I am a huge believer in the importance of company culture. Company culture is the only sustainable competitive advantage that a company can have. Your marketing, your products, they can all be copied by your customers. Give them enough time and resources, and they'll do whatever you're doing, and they'll do it even better. But the one thing they can never copy is your culture, because your culture is innate within your organization. It is innate within your people. And as a manager, as an owner, you need to do whatever you can possibly do to fuel that culture. At 352 Media Group, we have a really fun culture. That's what our culture is about. We do a lot of things. We do a field day where every year we take all of our employees out of work one summer afternoon, and we do field games. Literally, what you're looking at here is a potato sack race or a three-legged race that we do, along with tug-of-war and all kinds of other field games like that, just like we were all in kindergarten. We also create zany videos. If you search for 352 Media on YouTube, you'll find all kinds of funny videos that our staff has put together. And this is really more for our internal culture building, more to give our employees a laugh, more to make everyone feel good about working here, more than anything else. It connects people. It makes people feel like they're part of the bigger picture. Another thing that we do, which is a great thing for any company to explore, is we have built a social network, an internal social network through a company called Yammer. Yammer is a really cool tool. It's free. It's very similar to Facebook, but it's internal and private within your organization. And it essentially kind of replaces water cooler conversations in a digital way. But one of the really cool features of Yammer is that you can praise people. You can praise your coworkers. When one of your coworkers does something pretty cool, you can post what they did to Yammer, and you can give them what is called a badge inside Yammer. We've taken that into real life. When someone badges somebody through Yammer, we actually give them a physical badge as a thank you for whatever they have done within, that their coworkers have praised them for on Yammer. These are actual badges that are sewn, hand sewn, and we give them out in staff meetings, and people wear their badges. This may remind you of what the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts used to do, maybe when you were a little kid, and that's exactly right. We give these badges away. People put them up on their walls. People put them on the back of their notebook computers. Some people even wear them as a sash, and it's pride, and it's getting everyone together, being recognized for their accomplishments, and feeling together as one. There is a famous business study that was conducted a number of years ago, but the data still holds true to today, and it is the study as to what motivates employees. A lot of managers think that employees' number one motivation is money. That's not correct at all. Actually, money is the number 5 motivation for employees. Number 4, job security. Number 3, the feeling of being in on things. And that's culture. Culture is embracing your staff. Culture is listening to what they say. Your culture doesn't have to be fun and games, kind of like our culture is here at 352 Media Group. You can be a more serious organization, but it's finding ways for your employee to participate, your employee to make a difference, and your employees to contribute. That's what culture is. Culture is also appreciating the work your employees do and finding unique ways to reward your employees and to recognize your employees for what they do. And also giving your employees interesting work. Make sure that they have a little bit of variety in their day and make sure they just aren't doing the same thing over and over again. Allow them to contribute in different ways. Allow them to contribute to the bigger picture of the organization overall. Those are the things that motivate employees, much more so than money actually does. I want to leave you today, and then we'll take some questions at the end as well, but I wanted to leave you with a quote that is a quote that every entrepreneur should embrace and put on their wall. From Winston Churchill, "Courage is moving from failure to failure and not losing enthusiasm." The truth is, whenever you go down any entrepreneurial journey, whether it's starting a new business or doing something entrepreneurial inside the organization you work for, you're going to have some failures along the way. You can't let that discourage you. And if you follow some of the tips that I gave, such as doing less with more and not, hamstringing yourself at the beginning, getting to market quickly. If you do those things, then you can sustain a failure or two, and you can keep moving forward because you know that you've got the ability to do so. To be courageous, you've got to keep going past these failures, not lose enthusiasm, and you'll eventually get to where you want to go. Peter, I'm going to let you jump in here at this point if we have any questions, and if anyone would like to ask any questions, feel free to do so through your chat box or the question box on GoToWebinar, and we'll take a couple of questions and then wrap up the presentation. We're also going to make the presentation available in a recorded format online on our website, 352media.com, so if you want to go back and watch it at a later time or share it with somebody inside or outside of your organization, we'd love for you to do so.
All right, thanks, Geoff. We did have a few questions come in, some that I was able to answer in the chat. Had one come in when you were asking, or when you were talking about, bringing something to market quickly and that type of thing, and talking about Harley-Davidson and their brand. And the question was, does that same thing apply to reinventing an industry?
Reinventing an industry? That's certainly interesting. Well, I definitely think that if you're going to try to do something as grandiose as really reinvent an industry or take an industry to the next level, then certainly entrepreneurial skills are the #1 thing that you need. I mean, there are a lot of industries that have been stagnant for many, many years, but then go through a period of complete reinvention. Look at the media. I mean, look at the newspaper industry. That was a very well-established industry and has completely reinvented itself. Now, in that case, not really by choice, but more by necessity of dropping revenues and competition from online sources. But that being said, there's a lot of newspapers that have started to make savvy maneuvers after trying to find their way for quite some time and are starting to see revenues from online versions of their paper and that type of thing really pick up. We're working heavily with the St. Petersburg Times, which is now the Tampa Bay Times, on a redesign of their website, which is going to go online in a couple of months, so take a look for that. And they're really being technology forward-facing within their industry, really trying to help reinvent their industry and coming out with a website and a way of distributing news online that's really revolutionary in a lot of different ways. So I think you need the entrepreneurial skills. I do think having a strong sense of why it is you're doing what you're doing, what motivates you, is key there as well. So I would definitely recommend Simon Sinek's book and really embracing that why as to what it is that's driving you, what it is that's driving your organization to reinvent the industry, and then tell that belief to everybody. Speak about your vision, really think big and speak big, and show that passion for where you're trying to take things.
Okay, a couple other great questions. A good segue one off of that, actually. What are some of the tips that you have on how to best find that niche?
That's a great question. So, for a niche to be effective, it's got to be a group that you can easily get to with whatever marketing dollars you're willing to put forward. And marketing dollars doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend a ton of money on advertising. It can just simply be working within a group from a networking standpoint, and going out and meeting people and writing letters to people and that type of thing. But I would choose your niche somewhat based upon the capitalization and plans of your business. A lot of businesses choose a geographic niche, and that's a good way to go. It's easier to build a business within a local region, certainly, than it is to build a business within nationally. Another popular type of niche is obviously an industry niche, and that's where you would focus your products and your offerings in on one particular industry. And even if you plan on going bigger down the road, and even if you would like to be able to serve all kinds of companies across different industries, it still can be a smart idea to focus on one particular industry in the beginning, build really strong tools that really serve the needs of people in that industry. And of course, in order for you to be successful, you've got to understand the people that are within that niche. You've got to understand the challenges they face, and how whatever product or service you're going to come out with is going to help them succeed in the long run. So make sure it's a niche that you can get to, and make sure that it's a niche that you know.
Mm-hmm. A good question when we have this slide up, and I know you talked about some of the things, particularly with like Campete, that were challenges for you. But what was the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome, or even looking at this slide, what the biggest maybe failure that you learned from?
Well, I would say that entrepreneurial journeys are full of obstacles. It's hard to pick out just one, but you do have to know that with any business, even the most successful business, it's always going to be, if your business is going really well, it's going to be 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. And that's if your business is going well. If it's not going well, it's going to be 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards, or potentially no steps forward at all. Every business is always going to run into issues that you have to overcome, and you just have to have the mindset that you're going to do whatever it takes to do to overcome those issues, and you have to be flexible. Certainly, cash flow is a big concern for small businesses. It's an issue that we at 352 Media Group have struggled with, from time to time. Whenever a company is quickly growing, managing cash, getting money in from your customers to fuel your growth and to sustain your growth is really important. It is possible to grow too quickly and to literally have your own success put you out of business, because you're increasing your expenses as you're hiring people and doing all that type of stuff. And then if you're not getting the money in from the sales that you have made in a timely manner and the work that you've done, then you're not going to have the money there to pay the increased expense load that's as a result of you growing. So I'd say managing cash flow, and also just really monitoring, setting up key performance indicators, and monitoring the critical number aspects of your business are challenges that we've had to overcome at 352 Media Group. We were not, for a while, we were really not, in our early days, monitoring our production enough, meaning we were doing a lot of work on a lot of different projects, but we were not keeping a close enough eye on how much time was being expended into the different projects we were doing. And for us, time is money, because we're a service-based company, so everything that we do is based around time. So, keeping really tight controls on your key performance areas, your key performance indicators is certainly another obstacle we've had to overcome.
Great. And there's one more question here that I really like, and it'd be good to hear your thoughts on. What is your attitude towards your competitors, and how do you beat them?
I actually don't believe that you should worry about your competitors very much. I feel like a lot of people are too focused on your competitors. A lot of people are also too focused on protecting their ideas. It's really not about how good your idea is as much as it's about how well you execute your idea. It's about execution, not the idea in most cases. And likewise, it doesn't really matter what your competitors are doing or not doing if you can out-execute them. You know, you could have big competitors, but you can find ways to do better than what they're doing and find niches that they're not serving very well. You know, and I'm not saying you shouldn't pay any attention to your competitors. You should know, you know, who they're trying to get to and what they're doing well and not well. But don't obsess over your competitors. Really don't do it at all. It's going to drive you crazy, and at the end of the day, it's you who controls your own destiny. If you're running your business well, if you're growing your product well, pay attention to that. Keep doing that. Keep doing more of that, and you know, don't really worry what the competitors are doing.
Great. Well, I think that's it, unless there's anything else you wanted to add, Geoff?
I'm happy to take any further follow-ups. Anyone who would be interested in getting in contact with me afterwards. I put some information now up here on the screen. This is my personal website, geoffwilson.com. I put my email up there. I don't mind taking some questions by email, as well as my Twitter handle. And then, of course, our company, 352 Media Group, a web development and digital marketing agency. You can find us online at 352media.com and learn a lot about our culture, and a lot of the things that I touched on in today's presentation. You can learn about them in more detail by visiting our site, 352media.com.
Great, and as Geoff said, we'll go ahead and put the archived version of this up on our blog so that we can share that with you. And if you missed anything, wanted to go back and watch anything or share it with anyone else, you're more than welcome to, and we'll send out an email once that is done. But thank you all for attending, and we'll let you know about our next webinar. Thank you.